You're not even 2 weeks into NFL training camp, and already the quarterback room feels less like a team and more like a Game of Thrones power struggle. Cameras are everywhere, hot mics are on, and Twitter is foaming at the mouth with every practice clip. And right at the center of the chaos, stepping onto the battlefield in full pads before most rookies have even unpacked their cleats, is Shedeur Sanders. Yes, that's Sanders, son of Deion, quarterback, disruptor, target. And if it feels like the NFL isn't quite sure what to do with him, you're not imagining things. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. ACT1, the prince who would be QB1. Before Shedeur ever set foot in the Browns facility, he was already violating unspoken rookie protocol. Forget sit quietly and learn. Forget wait your turn behind the vets. Shedeur showed up with his own off-season playbook, working through NFL-level reps, simulations, and film sessions while the ink on his undrafted free agent contract was still drying. This wasn't some light jog and TikTok montage. We're talking full pads, 11-on-0 drills, deep mental reps. Dude would prepare like a starter before he even got the backup clipboard. You could call it audacious, arrogant, even, but what it really signals is something the league doesn't know how to process. A rookie who expects to lead, not one day, now, and that right there is where the trouble starts. Because in the NFL, rookies aren't supposed to walk in like this. Especially not that kind of rookie. Especially not when your last name is Sanders. Let's backtrack. Shedeur Sanders didn't ride into Cleveland on nepotism fumes. At Jackson State and then Colorado, he put up gaudy stats, demonstrated NFL-level poise, and played through more sacks than most quarterbacks see in a season. He led, he adjusted, he studied, and most critically, he won. But despite the production, the bloodline, and the leadership, he slipped through the draft. Why? That's where the narratives start to stink. NFL insiders whispered about attitude concerns. Anonymous scouts questioned whether he was coachable. Analysts subtly suggested he was too media-trained, a bizarre way of saying he's just too good at handling a microphone. Some even hinted his father was a problem, as if having a Hall of Fame dad, who's also your biggest supporter, is a red flag. If you're hearing echoes of Cam Newton, you're not alone. ACT2, welcome to the politics of quarterbacking. Inside the Brown quarterback room, things are already delicate. On paper, Deshaun Watson is the guy. He's got the massive contract, the Pro Bowl past, and a long leash. But let's be honest, his recent performances haven't exactly screamed franchise savior. Behind him are journeymen, placeholders, and mid-round rookies. Translation, a perfect storm for a QB controversy waiting to happen. Enter Shedeur. Now, most rookies would shrink into the background in this kind of pressure cooker. Instead, Sanders went out and earned first-team reps in training camp. Not as a gimmick, not as a social media stunt, but because the dude just outperformed the room. Quick reads, elite timing, manipulating defenses like he's been doing this for years. Coaches didn't want to name it publicly, but privately, they knew what they saw. Sanders wasn't just good for a rookie. He was running circles around the depth chart. But here's the catch. None of that matters in a room where politics trump performance. The NFL loves its hierarchy. Veterans get the benefit of the doubt. Draft picks get protected. Rookies, especially undrafted ones, are supposed to shut up and wait. So when Shedeur starts outshining the expensive QB1 and outworking the hand-picked backups, it doesn't just make headlines. It makes enemies. Especially if you're a confident, camera-comfortable black quarterback with a famous last name and zero patience for nonsense. And then the Giants' leak happened. Just as the Sanders momentum was building, the New York Giants conveniently leaked a snippet from his pre-draft interview. It was vague, it was out of context, and it was clearly designed to make him look bad. The clip, which painted Sanders as arrogant or dismissive, lit up social media. But here's the twist. His family immediately pushed back. They called it a hit job, a selective release designed to poison his image. And you know what? They had receipts. The full interview, once privately shared, showed none of the cockiness people assumed. Instead, it revealed a player who was confident, direct, and smart. You know, the exact qualities teams claim they want in a quarterback. So why the smear? Because if Shedeur succeeds, it means the system failed. The draft whiffed. The media misjudged. And NFL GMs have to explain why a guy this talented went undrafted while other, safer picks flop on Sundays. That's not a conversation the league wants to have. Especially not when the loudest voices in the media have made careers out of tearing down outspoken black quarterbacks. ACT 3, the battle of narrative versus performance. Remember Cam Newton? Of course you do. First overall pick, MVP, Super Bowl, and yet somehow always painted as a problem. Too flashy, too confident, too much. When Cam showed up in suits, he was distracting. When Baker Mayfield did it, he was charismatic. When Cam danced in the end zone, lacks maturity. When Johnny Manziel did it, competitive fire. The double standard is so baked in, it barely raises eyebrows anymore. And that's exactly the problem. Now, Shedeur is walking into the same buzzsaw, and the media machine is already warming up. But here's the thing. This generation players isn't playing the same game. They've got platforms. They've got voices. And they've got fans. Fans who watch the old narratives get recycled one too many times and aren't buying the spin anymore. So while talking heads bicker about intangibles, Shedeur is building a highlight reel in practice. He's breaking down coverages like a 10-year vet. And he's winning over the locker room one rep at a time. And then something strange happens. The fans start chanting his name. At practice, in comment sections, on Twitter threads. It's not just support, it's momentum. Deshaun Watson, despite his contract, is suddenly not the most popular QB in Cleveland. That's wild. It's not because Shedeur gave a great interview. It's not just because he's fast or famous or confident. It's because when people actually watch him, they see what the NFL is pretending not to see, a player who looks like the future. And that terrifies some people. Because if Shedeur can walk in, outwork the vets, outclass the politics, and still command the room, then maybe, just maybe, the NFL's whole system of evaluating quarterbacks is broken. Outro, the threat of being unapologetically ready. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Shedeur Sanders isn't threatening because he's arrogant. He's threatening because he's right. Right about his talent. Right about his readiness. Right about the media narratives that get weaponized against players who don't fit the NFL's preferred mold. He's not the only one, either. Lamar Jackson had to beg for respect despite an MVP trophy. Cam Newton was painted as a villain for being himself. Colin Kaepernick? That's a whole different story. And now, Shedeur's in the crosshairs. Not because he's loud, but because he's loud and correct. So what happens next? Maybe he starts. Maybe he sits. But the real story isn't about week one snaps. It's about who controls the story. Because the next generation of quarterbacks, they're not waiting for permission to be leaders. They're not waiting for gatekeepers to validate them. They're showing up, showing out, and letting their play do the talking. And if the NFL doesn't adapt, well, they're going to get left behind. So what do you think? Is Shedeur Sanders a real deal, or just another hype train with famous family ties? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that subscribe button and stick around. Because this season, the quarterback drama is just getting started. And something tells me Shedeur Sanders isn't done making people uncomfortable. Not even close. Inside the Browns facility, coaches are tense. PR staff are running damage control, and the quarterback reps are being watched like a crime scene investigation. Every decision is political now. Every drill is a referendum. And Shedeur Sanders? He's still balling. On this day, he leads back-to-back touchdown drives in team drills. One with the twos, one in a brief spell with the ones after a fluke equipment issue bumped Pickett from the lineup. It's barely a four-play sequence, but Sanders makes it count. Quick slant to the slot, a perfectly placed out route, and a dart up the seam that turns heads, even among the defense. Then, just like that, he's back to the sideline. The media sees it. The fans see it. And most importantly, he sees it. That look in his eyes when the reps are reassigned, that's not frustration, it's confirmation. He knows the score. This isn't about development. This is about control. At the post-practice presser, Stefanski sticks to the script. We're continuing to evaluate all our quarterbacks. There's no change to the depth chart at this time. But the locker room hears something else. They hear that it doesn't matter what happens on the field. They hear that hierarchy trumps competition. They hear that the decision's already been made, and it wasn't based on play. And for a team trying to build chemistry, that's poison. Behind closed doors, offense and defense are starting to split. Some receivers, guys who built timing with Shedeur, are vocal about wanting him to get more reps. The defense, meanwhile, respects what he's done against them and can't understand why he's being capped. A team that should be uniting around a shared identity is instead splintering under a battle they were never supposed to see. This is a danger of mishandling a moment like this. It doesn't just hurt the player. It hurts the entire team. Meanwhile, Jimmy Haslam has had enough. He's watched his quarterback spark national headlines and fan revolts, while the coaching staff pretends it's business as usual. He's taken the calls from sponsors asking if Sanders will be starting preseason games. He's seen the local sports media flip from developmental project to most exciting Browns QB since Baker. And now he's stepping in. Sources close to the front office report that Haslam has issued an informal directive. Get him in with the starters. I want to see what he looks like with the first-team offense. This week, this puts Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski in a bind. If they comply, it sets a precedent. Ownership gets to override football decisions. But if they ignore it, they risk everything, from public humiliation to possible job insecurity. The Browns are suddenly no longer evaluating quarterbacks. They're navigating power politics. And in that kind of environment, nobody wins cleanly. Back at training camp, the fans don't need directives. They've already made their choice. Every time Sanders steps on the field, the energy changes. Chants break out. Parents hoist their kids on their shoulders for a glimpse of the future. Jerseys custom-ordered, since the Browns haven't officially pushed any QB gear to stands. Even the media is catching on. More national cameras show up. More pundits tweet breakdown clips. More podcasts ask, what are the Browns so afraid of? It's not just local hype anymore. It's a full-on movement. And if the Browns think they can insulate themselves from that kind of wave, they've miscalculated. Badly. Because in 2025, fandom isn't passive. It's powerful. And when you try to bury a quarterback the people have already decided is him, the backlash is merciless. All the while, Deshaun Watson's presence looms. But increasingly, it fades. He's doing media. He's making the throws. But something's off. You can feel the tension in his posture. He hears the chants. He sees the Sanders reps. He knows that any mistake, will be magnified. That kind of pressure doesn't inspire greatness. It breeds fear. And Watson's not new to scrutiny. But this is different. This isn't critics from the outside. It's the walls closing in from within. It's the team he was supposed to lead slowly shifting its gaze to someone else. A rookie, a fifth-rounder, a threat. Watson hasn't lost a locker room yet, but it's slipping, inch by inch. And in a business that punishes hesitation, that's the beginning of the end. At its core, this isn't just a quarterback controversy. This is a test of what kind of team the Browns really are. Do they value results or reputation? Do they reward performance or politics? Because if you're telling rookies to work harder, be better, and outcompete the room, but then deny them the opportunity when they do, then what's the point? What message does that send to the rest of the roster? To the incoming draft class? To the fans? Worse, what does it say about the future? Because right now, Shedeur Sanders isn't just fighting for a job. He's fighting to prove that merit still matters. And if the Browns can't uphold that, they're not just risking a bad season. They're risking their culture. With only days before the first preseason game, the pressure reaches a breaking point. Haslam wants Sanders to start the second half. Stefanski pushes back. Let's ease him in, see how he handles late-game tempo. Berry wants Dylan Gabriel in for extended reps instead. The compromise? Shedeur will get one series with the ones. Just one. But here's the thing about pressure. Some people crack under it. Others live in it. The stadium isn't sold out, but it might as well be. Every fan in the lower bowl is on edge. Sanders enters in the third quarter, after Pickett and Gabriel have both delivered lukewarm performances. The score doesn't matter. It's not about winning. It's about watching. And within 3 plays, it's undeniable. First throw, a 12-yard out, perfectly placed, beating press coverage. Second play, read option keeper, 8 yards, slide safely. Third play action fake, steps up in the pocket, fires a 32-yard rope across the middle, touchdown. The crowd explodes. The sidelines erupt. The team finally has a spark. The rest of the drive is irrelevant. The message has already landed. You can feel it in the stadium. This is the guy. After the game, Stefanski offers the most measured praise possible. Shedeur did some nice things out there. We'll keep evaluating. But it doesn't matter. The team knows. The fans know. And the reporters? They don't even ask about Gabriel. Every question is about Sanders. Is he getting first-team reps next week? Will he play with the starters in preseason game 2? Has he earned a shot? Stefanski dodges. Barry tightens up. But Haslam smiles from the press box. He knows what's coming next. Monday morning. New practice schedule hits the team chat. Shedeur Sanders. QB1 rotation. First team reps. Full series. No fanfare. No announcement. Just a shift. But for the team, it lands like a thunderclap. Finally, the best player is being treated like it. Finally, the reps match the reality. Finally, the meritocracy has teeth. And for Shedeur, it's not a victory lap. It's just a checkpoint. Because the real work is just beginning. He still has to win the job. Still has to earn the locker room. Still has to hold off the guys behind him and prove a decision wasn't just fan service. But now at least he has a chance. And sometimes that's all a disruptor needs. The NFL loves stories about grit, about perseverance, about earning it. But what the league often fears is what happens when someone actually does.